everybody doing today? It's your boy Deezil Greezil, and you tuned in to another episode of Know What I'm Saying. As always, I got my homie Kweli in the building.
What's up, what's up?
And we got another fun-filled, entertainment, action-packed episode. I mean, whatever adjectives and superlatives you want to use to describe, you gonna learn. You know what I'm saying?
You're gonna learn today.
You're gonna learn today. You know what I'm saying? But hey, man, it is Saturday, January 23rd, 2016. You know, and it's been a crazy week as usual. Gotta love America, man. You know what I'm saying?
Always something going on.
God bless America and no place else, as the white folks say. But yeah, man, we got a lot of stuff on the agenda today, man. Today we're gonna talk about racism and why black people cannot be racist. Under no circumstances is that possible. Stay tuned, you're gonna find out why. We gotta talk about this crisis in my home state of Michigan. You know, Flint, Michigan is under siege, and the city of Detroit, man, their public school system is in shambles. You know, definitely got some information to share with y'all about that. And then we also want to talk about this gay school in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Gay school in Atlanta. We got Young Thug coming out of Atlanta. I mean, it's a lot of questionable men who come out of Atlanta. And now we have a gay school, so it's a pipeline to continue the pride that is ATL. You know, so it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But without further ado, we're gonna get this show off the ground, man. So, like I said, black people cannot be racist.
I would agree with that in the sense of the way that we define and recognize racism in America today and throughout history. Yes, I would agree with that.
And well, it's funny, man, 'cause my whole life, my kicks in my whole life, man, I tend to speak in absolutes, so y'all gotta forgive me. But the majority of my life, I can say that I've always felt black people couldn't be racist. And it wasn't even based on any concrete knowledge. It was just my point of view that, you know, it was basically steeped in the fact that black people have been through so much shit, white people have done so much shit to us that there's no way that we can be considered racist. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't until I got older and I started to educate myself and put forth a conscious effort to understand what was racism that I came to the conclusion that I was correct all along, but not necessarily for the reasons that I thought. Mm-hmm. Now, I define racism, and it's not necessarily my definition, it's one that I have heard, and if you properly research, you can find this anywhere on the internet. But the way I define racism is I can negatively impact or control your socio-economic environment, and I willingly choose to do so. Primarily impacting in a negative way. And so, with that being said, that's why I feel black people can't be racist. Because as a black man, I could hate a white person, I could dislike a white child, I could not want to be around white people, I could not open my home to them, any form of bigotry that you could think of, but in no way, shape, form, or fashion can I impact that white person's standard of living. You know what I'm saying? I can't stop that white person from getting a job at their preferred place of employment. I can't stop them from getting a bank loan. I can't deny them access to health care. I cannot influence where they get education from. You know, I don't really have control over those things. Therefore, I can't be racist.
Yeah, and the thing that kind of makes that to be so is because of the systems and the policies and the industries, the infrastructure, all of those elements are controlled by vast majority of white people, and even more so white men. So the systems, like the laws and all the policies, criteria that's in place for, let's take education. If you know, there's a recent case of a girl that was trying to get into UT a couple years ago, a white girl. Was trying to get into UT and she didn't get in, and I think the whole case and stuff is still trying to go on now. She's been to the Supreme Court, I believe, and she's pretty much saying that through the affirmative action and stuff like that, that black students have gotten in that weren't qualified, and she didn't. And you guys can look that up, and on that, just Google it.
I think I remember that story, and I think after they did some research, her grades weren't the best. She really wasn't the ideal candidate.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway,
the thing is, there were white students that had lower grades and stuff than her that actually got in too, and then there were black students who applied who had much higher grades and credentials and stuff, and they didn't get in. So. But the thing is, that whole system that had to be put in place of affirmative action, which people are now starting to speak out against and stuff, the reason why that exists in the first place is because the system was so slanted and it was affecting the minority community like tremendously. So they had to put something else in to kind of start to undo, to kind of offset the racist system.
Because there was a point in time that you could have a perfect SAT score, be valedictorian of your school, but you wasn't getting into a certain college because of your skin color. And I mean, and it's not to say that doesn't exist now, but there was a time where it was blatant, like, hey, it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like Chris Wright said it best in Just. He says, when you're white, the sky is the limit. When you're black, the limit is the sky. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, it's like, affirmative action was very necessary. You know what I'm saying? Very necessary. Now, essentially what affirmative action means is that we're going to create slots for people of color, and the only way we can create those slots is to remove them from other people, which in itself, that means someone's going to get left out. But as opposed to the other system, it was all of these slots are for white people, so none of these black people are getting in. You know what I'm saying? So it's like basically they gave us a percentage of the slots to guarantee us an opportunity.
And it wasn't even a real solution. It was a band-aid, because they could have just, like you said, gotten rid of the other system altogether and just said, look, how about do you not check this box on here of what your race and ethnicity is? Like, we just go off of your scores.
Why even have the
box? To me it doesn't, and the thing is, once the box is there, you can't not see the box. Like, once I see that you checked Asian, African American, Hispanic, whatever, that is there. You can't unsee it.
And I always see where it says, or check here saying you prefer not to self-identify. And I've always interpreted that as you voluntarily identify yourself as someone that's not white. You know what I'm saying? Because as a white person, why would you check that box?
You know
what I'm saying? I mean, so to me, that's always been a trap. So I've always willingly identified myself as black for fear of me being grouped into whatever group they want to group me in if I check that other box. But it's crazy. But I mean, it just goes back to a racist system that's been in place for a very long time. The system of white supremacy is very real. You know what I'm saying? White privilege is very real. There was a viral clip going around where a young lady asked Hillary Clinton how she felt white privilege has helped her out or had a positive impact. And I was shocked by Hillary's answer. I just really thought she was about to spew some political bullshit up my ass. I really thought that she was just about to just pretend it doesn't exist. And one of the first things Hillary was like, well, first off, I was born white in the middle of this country in a middle-class home. That right there, you know what I'm saying, puts her here, when we're here. Middle class for white people, middle class for black people is not the same.
It's not.
You know what I'm saying? It's not the same. You know what I'm saying? Middle class for black people is borderline poverty. You know what I'm saying? Still, you just happen to not be as poor as your cousins. You know what I'm saying? Basically, you know what I'm saying? Whereas middle class white people, man, they may live in a neighborhood where they got the lowest valued home in the neighborhood, but that lowest valued home is still more valuable than the highest valued home in the black middle class neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think that
because there's more the things that add value to neighborhoods is not just the homes only. You know, it's the schools, it's the type of work that's available.
Really,
everything.
It boils down to the values of the property, because that's what influences property taxes, which is what fuels that neighborhood having all of those nice things.
Yeah.
But it starts with people being able to afford those higher premiums.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But it's real.
Yeah. And I want to put that name out there. The name for the UT student that I referenced earlier is Abigail Fisher.
That ain't the whitest name I've heard in life. Abigail Fisher. You goddamn right. Abigail, if affirmative action didn't exist, I'm pretty sure that you would have took Tamika Watson's, you know what I'm saying, scholarship slot. I'm pretty sure just on the name game alone. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, like you said, it's a Band-Aid, and it's not a solution, but at the same time, it gave us a sliver of opportunity that we didn't have prior. You know what I'm saying? But in true white people fashion, man, they see you getting ahead, they want to try to yank that shit away from you. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, like, white people act like they didn't have a head start. You know what I'm saying? Like, and some of the things that Tim Wise talks about is how once the middle class was created, it essentially gave blue-collar, hardworking white folks, if there's ever such a thing, but you know what I'm saying, it gave them an opportunity to become homeowners exclusively. You know what I'm saying? There was an opportunity for people of color to become homeowners. And enough white people became homeowners that it built what we call a middle class. You know? And it wasn't until recently, maybe the 80s and 90s, that these opportunities really started to happen for black people. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, and a lot of, like in our area, like we have a lot of black homeowners in the Clay area because of the military. I mean, pretty much 100%. That's the only thing that's different between the people here and then the people in other areas. You know what I'm saying? Because black people work hard everywhere. But the reason these people live a little more affluent lives is because of the military, and it gave them access to loans from the government, which allowed them to become homeowners, you know?
Yeah, and just to give some historical facts, so what you said doesn't get dismissed as, oh, he's just, you guys can look this stuff up, like United States history. Everybody knows about the GI Bill that the military gets, that I'm prior military, so I'm going to school now on a GI Bill. Well, post-World War II, 1944, one of the early GI Bill things that they put out, which allowed soldiers to get homes, African American soldiers were not allowed to use a GI Bill to get homes.
Wow.
And that's a fact. So that's one example right there of racism in the United States through redlining. The Housing Act of 1937, look that up. National Housing Act of 1934. Fair Housing Act of 1968. I mean, the list goes on.
You mean the Fair Skin Housing Act? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, you might as well call it that.
The Fair Skin Housing Act.
I mean, all of these acts, I mean, I'm looking at them right now, and there's about 8 of them on here that go all the way up to the late 70s. And so these are the things that directly result in the neighborhoods, the hoods, the projects, you know, that we know of, you know, New York City, California, Detroit, Chicago. There's a reason why these neighborhoods exist that way. And then tying that into what you said about the home ownership and property, if you're living in this area that where you don't own homes and the job opportunities are low, that means the taxes that are being paid are lower. The taxes fund your schools, which means now your schools are going to be substandard because there's not enough income, there's not enough value in the neighborhood, in the property, to actually have those taxes go to help the schools out to be good. So all of that stuff is tied in to the next thing. Like, you know, it's a web, a ripple effect. So you can't just simply dismiss it because, you know, it's not comfortable for you, or you know, or you're not aware of it. Like, it's there. The information is there.